This is the FM Gold channel of All India Radio. In the program News Analysis, we now bring you a discussion on Indian Navy, silent, strong and swift. The participants are Vice Admiral Satish Soni, Defence Analyst, and Sudhiranjan Sen, Journalist.
December 4th, 1971, the Indian Navy launches Operation Trident. It is one of the biggest or the most memorable milestones of the Indian Navy's glorious history. 3 Indian Navy warships, INS Nipat, Nirghat and Veer, sank about 4 Pakistani vessels that were inside the Karachi harbour. And it is to commemorate this day that December 4th is celebrated as the Navy Day. So, from 71 or from where we started in 1947, we have come a long way. We are now becoming the net security guarantor in the Indian Ocean region. How far do we have to go before we completely take over that mantle?
First of all, December 4th, we celebrate as the Navy Day on account of 2 reasons. One, as you said, to commemorate what happened on the night of December 4th, 5th, when the Indian naval missile boats attacked the Karachi harbour and sank Pakistani warships and merchant ships and ammunition ships. But the second reason is to pay a tribute to our sailors, officers and civilians who are serving in the Indian Navy and who are putting their best foot forward and keeping this Navy operational and forever ready for war. And it is also an occasion for us to pay a tribute to those who have sacrificed, who have now sacrificed their youth in service to the nation and who are now retired. So it is for these reasons that we pause in our lives and celebrate the occasion on the 4th of December. Insofar as the Navy is concerned, as you said, we have indeed come a very long way. We were, at the time of independence, we inherited a few ships. But despite the fact that we were a poor country, we had visionary leadership in the Navy. We started to build our own ships very early. And in 1967, from GRSE Calcutta, we built a small patrol boat called INS Ajay. And then 1972, the Navy commissioned INS Nilgiri, a frigate, about 2,500 tons, which was a design which was imported from the Royal Navy. And then we had a design bureau which we set up and we experimented with our indigenous design, and in the mid-80s we commissioned INS Godavari. It was not a perfect design, but a design it was, and finally in 1997 we commissioned INS Delhi, a destroyer displacing 6,000 tons, and I think we had in some ways arrived as a builder's navy. Thereafter, it has been a success story. We have designed and built the INS Shivalik class, we have built the Kadmat class, the corvettes, and now we are going to be building even bigger ships of the Vishakhapatnam class. And these are world class now. And most importantly, we have built our own indigenous ballistic missile in INS Arihant. That's how far we have come, and today we are a 3-dimensional Navy. Our first indigenous aircraft carrier is going to start trials soon, and we have laid emphasis on indigenization, and that is bearing fruit now.
If I were to go back a little, when the Godavari class were coming out, the Delhi class, and today if you look at the Shivalik class, they are stealth frigates. And that's a huge quantum jump in manufacturing. So, in manufacturing, designing, but at the same point of time, we have not been able to do the same for submarines, so to say. Why is that?
Well, actually, it is not as if we did not plan so well. When we acquired the SSK class from Germany, there was an indigenous program, and out of the 4 submarines that were in the program, 2 were imported and 2 were to be built. But there was a controversy, and then this program could not progress further. And thereafter, now we are building the Scorpion class, in collaboration with the French. But that said, maybe in conventional submarines, on account of these reasons, we've lagged behind a bit. But we have a very able design bureau which has, as I said, designed ISSBN. We are the only country in the world to have straightaway designed and built a SSBN and not first designed a SSN, which is normally the route which navies take. So I am sure we'll get there. We are getting some new approvals from the government for conventional submarines. So we'll be there insofar as the submarines are also concerned.
And so if you look at the increasing militarization of the Indian Ocean region, because we are seeing increasingly navies across the world or powers across the world want to be present in this area. and the role of the Indian Navy therefore becomes even more complicated. How does it in the future manage it?
The Indian Ocean is important on account of many reasons. One is nearly 120,000 ships a year which transit the many busy sea lines of communication crisscrossing the Indian Ocean region. Then the Indian Ocean is an embayed ocean in the sense that the entry is through only few choke points. So if you control a choke point, you could address or you could assert yourselves in controlling the movement of merchant ships. Then there is just so much of oil and gas and minerals, whether it is the African coast or it is the Strait of Hormuz or the Persian Gulf or the Gulf of Aden. There is just so much of merchant traffic, and economies today are dependent on movement of trade. So everyone wants to have a presence, and we've had the Western navies in the Indian Ocean on a very large scale for many decades now. On an average, you would say there are nearly 100 to 120 warships in the North Arabian Sea and Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Aden. Then we had for a fairly long time the incidents of piracy which affected the trade and the insurance rates and affected economies of the countries, and that gave a reason to many navies to have a presence here. Of late we have had China developing as a big economic and military power, and their economy is dependent on imports and exports. So most of their raw material is coming from the Strait of Hormuz in the Persian Gulf, oil and gas, and raw materials, minerals from the east coast of Africa, oil from the west coast of Africa. And they are also very keen to assert themselves as a rising economic and military power. So suddenly we witness this simmering competition between big powers, and India for one has also become a fairly important economic and military player in the region. So therefore you see this competition is only going to rise in the future.
Taking a lead from where you left on China, the Chief of Naval Staff recently, when addressing the media, talked about an incident where the Indian Navy had to shoo away Chinese survey vessel from Indian waters. How seriously do you look at it?
I think it is very serious. It was in 2008, which is just about 11 years ago, that for the first time a flotilla of 3 old small Chinese ships entered the Indian Ocean ostensibly to take part in anti-piracy operations in the Gulf of Aden. And they stayed for 3 months and sailed back, and they were replaced by another 3 ships. And thereafter, this size of the flotilla has only increased. The size of the ships participating in the flotilla have increased. They have added submarines to this flotilla. There are more survey ships, intelligence ships, hydrological ships, hydrographic ships, which have a presence. At any given time, there are 9 to 10 Chinese ships present today. And the aim is to gain intelligence. The aim is to show presence. The aim is to develop ports. They opened a base in Djibouti. They are developing ports all across the coast of Africa, in Sri Lanka, in Gwadar, in Bangladesh, in Myanmar. There are as many as 21 ports, and then they have this Belt and Road initiative which runs through the Indian Ocean. So there are so many reasons suddenly for the Chinese to be here, but it is not nice to have your intelligence ships prying around in the exclusive economic zones of other countries. And just like the Chinese wouldn't want us to be in their waters doing what the intelligence ships are doing here, I think the Indian Navy was well within its rights to push a Chinese ship out.
The other thing that needs to be focused on is the military diplomacy in which the Indian Navy has really excelled upon. I mean, today not only does it do exercises with friendly navies, it has floated a concept called the Indian Ocean, the IONS concept, the littoral and the Indian Ocean region, bringing them together, the Milan exercise, and several such exercises bringing countries together. Where does this leave us as a country? And given the assets that we have, say in the next 10 years, how much do we expand from here?
You see, I must say that India is not a very rich country. The Indian Navy is not a very big navy. Our responsibilities, our mandate towards providing security to our own mainland is huge. So in trying to help others, we really have to tighten our belts. And we have, whether it is gifting ships, building small boats, installing coastal radars, AIS stations, hydrographic surveys, EZ surveys, refitting their ships. We do it for all the countries, the smaller countries in and around us. We have state-of-the-art training facilities today in the Navy, and we offer these to friendly foreign countries all around us, and over 800 to 1,000 trainees train every year with us. And this is under this ITEC scheme. Everything is subsidized. So the Indian Navy is formally mandated by the government to be the net provider of security, and we are very active in doing so. But I must say that the Indian Navy's allocations in the recent past have been somewhat limited. Firstly, the allocations for defense have come down a bit, and we're hovering around maybe 2% of GDP. The Indian Navy, I remember 5 or 6 years back, had approximately 18% of the defense budget, and today it has slid to around 12%. So in the coming years, I think the Indian Navy must be given more importance. It is going to be a very important arm of not only offense, defense, but also of diplomacy. And I think the Indian Navy should be so used.
Which is why when you talk about diplomacy, concepts or constructs like the Indian Ocean Region Naval Symposium is playing a very, very important role. And to keep everybody on board, we have kind of done a revolving chairmanship. How is it kind of developing now?
You see, it was in 2008 that Indian Navy actually came up with this idea of getting the people of the littorals together. Keeping the extra-regional powers away and just trying to say that security is our business, let us discuss it together. So ION's Indian Ocean Naval Symposium came into being. India was chief mover behind this somewhat an inclusive platform for discussions on maritime security matters. And after us, then the chairmanship passed to UAE, I think, and thereafter every 2 years it has been rotating. And we have had chairmanships of South Africa, Australia, Bangladesh, and current chairman is Iran. So in the years that have gone by, about nearly 11 odd years, I think considerable mileage has been achieved. There's a charter of business which has been drawn up, which exactly says how people will become members and what members are expected to do. There are 3 subgroups which have been formed on, say, search and rescue, maritime security, interoperability, etc. And we had the first SAR exercise under the chairmanship of Bangladesh, where I think nearly about 40 odd nations participated in some manner or the other, or 41 ships participated. And India makes a lot of effort. Milan has been in vogue for even before IONS. And it started as a small initiative with 3-4 countries participating. And this time I think we have had nearly 20 odd countries participated in Vizag to commemorate anniversary of Milan. So I think these 4 are extremely important for us, because ultimately no country in the region would really like to be dependent on an extra regional power. People don't want their security to be outsourced. And for that to happen, for people to get confidence, it's important that all the regional countries come together and try and solve the problem themselves.
Indian Navy has invested a lot on HADR, and it is also similarly on a mission mode, so to say, naval, and taking it as part of naval diplomacy. It's invested a lot on HADR with the countries around us. Where do you see that effort going?
Whether it was the tsunami of 2004 or it was the floods in Sri Lanka, or whether it was the cyclone Sidr which hit Bangladesh in 2007, or whether it was Nargis which hit in Myanmar 2008, whether it was shortage of water in the Maldives or the recent floods in Mozambique, the Indian Navy sends their ships forthwith. We have a tradition that HADR pellets are always, that means every ship is capable of providing some kind of HADR immediately, and that's why the ships are sailed. But we also acquired post-tsunami 2004 INS Jalashwa, which was a bigger ship which was capable of providing more help, and we are going to build 4 more. There should be a HADR coordination center. Well, we already have in some ways, but I think a more formalized version should be commissioned. So HADR is certainly, I think, an issue, because in the Bay of Bengal we have so many disasters. As you said, one of the most important areas which we can cooperate on.
Thank you, Admiral.
You were listening to a discussion on Indian Navy, silent, strong and swift. The participants were Vice Admiral Satish Soni, Defence Analyst, and Sudhir Ranjan Sen, Journalist. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. This program is also available on our website, newsonair.com. You can also follow us on News on AIR app for the updates. You may email your opinion about this program at airnsdtalks@gmail.com.